We are back. Welcome to my channel, Get Legit LLC. And today we'll be having a discussion as it relates to Justice Clarence Thomas. Yes. This is my second video that I'm doing as it relates to Justice Clarence Thomas. If you go check out my first video in which I discussed the PROPUBLICA's report, the first report, having to do with him taking luxury trips with his billionaire friend Harlan Crow, sale of a property that was never disclosed, as well as I got into the conundrum when it comes to whether or not the code of conduct is applicable to U.S. Supreme Court. I also read a snippet of a presentation that was done by the Chief Justice Roberts as it relates to that same issue as the code of conduct. Look at that video. I will put it at the end of this one so you can find it easily. But for this video, what we're going to discuss is a recent information that has come to light in another PROPUBLICA's report. Yes. But for those of you, let's deal with the disclaimers first. This is not legal advice. It is not legal opinion. It is merely Get Legit LLC opinion after we've done our research. If I'm using copyrighted materials and any person who feel I went beyond the fair use, please contact us so that we know and we could take down the necessary video. But whatever information we're using is for educational purposes. Please do subscribe. I just checked and I noticed that I have 263 subscribers. Thank you all for subscribing to me. Do enjoy the videos, and looking at these videos, you'll be able to learn a lot about what is happening in America and around the world. So please subscribe, like, share, and do comment so we could engage in a uplifting discussion, and while we educate each other and help each other become more knowledgeable. Now, let's get into it. Justice Clarence Thomas in yet another scandal involving his billionaire friend Harlan Crow. So, PROPUBLICA is reporting in an updated article entitled "Clarence Thomas had a child in private school. Harlan Crow paid the tuition." And this article, as the first, is written by Joshua Kaplan, Justin Elliott, and Alex Majerski. And the date of the article is May 4, 2023 at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. Now let's get into what Justice Thomas is doing now. So it says here, I'm going to read directly from the article. So for those of you who might not want to go and get the actual document and read it, I will be reading it here. So the information here is directly from the PROPUBLICA article, and it was written by these gentlemen. I'm just merely reading it, okay? So it says, in 2008, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas decided to send his teenage grandnephew to Hidden Lakes Academy, a private boarding school in the foothills of northern Georgia. The boy, Mark Martin, was far from home. For the previous decade, he had lived with the justice and his wife in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. Thomas had taken legal custody of Martin when he was 6 years old and had recently told an interviewer he was raising him as a son. Tuition at the boarding school ran more than $6,000 a month, but Thomas did not cover the bill. A bank statement for the school from July 2009, buried in unrelated court filings, shows the source of Martin's tuition payment for that month: the company of billionaire real estate magnate Harlan Crow. The payments extended beyond that month. According to Christopher Grimwood, a former administrator at the school, Crow paid Martin's tuition the entire time he was a student there, which was about a year, Grimwood told PROPUBLICA. Harlan picked up, this is what Grimwood told PROPUBLICA, quote unquote, okay? Harlan picked up the tab, said Grimwood, who got to know Crow and the Thomases and had access to school financial information through his work as an administrator. Before and after his time at Hidden Lake, Martin attended a second boarding school, Randolph-Macon Academy in Virginia. Harlan said he was paying for the tuition at Randolph-Macon Academy as well. Grimwood said, recalling a conversation he had with Crow during a visit to the billionaire's Adirondack estate. I hope I pronounced that word correct. ProPublica interviewed Martin, his former classmates, and former staff at both schools. The exact total Crow paid for Martin's education over the years remains unclear. If he paid for all 4 years at the two schools, the price tag could have exceeded $150,000, according to public records of tuition rates at the school. Thomas did not report the tuition payments from Crow on his annual financial disclosures. Several years earlier, Thomas disclosed a gift of $5,000 for Martin's education from a friend. It is not clear why he reported that payment, but not Crow's. The tuition payments add to the picture of how the Republican mega donor has helped fund the lives of Thomas and his family. "You can't be having secret financial arrangements," said Mark W. Bennett, a retired federal judge appointed by President Bill Clinton. Bennett said he was friendly with Thomas and declined to comment for the record about the specifics of Thomas's actions. But he said that when he was on the bench, he wouldn't let his lawyer friends buy him lunch. You think? Thomas did not respond to questions. In response to previous ProPublica reporting on gifts of luxury travel, he said that the Crows are among our dearest friends and that he understood he didn't have to disclose the trips. ProPublica sent Crow a detailed list of questions, and his office responded with a statement that did not dispute the facts presented in this story. Harlan Crow has long been passionate about the importance of quality education. Now, this is the response, okay? Open, it's a quotation, okay? Education and giving back to those less fortunate, especially at-risk youth. The statement said, "It's disappointing that those with partisan political interests would try to turn helping at-risk youth with tuition assistance into something nefarious or political," close quotes. The statement added that Crow and his wife have, open quotes, supported many young Americans, open close quotes, at a variety of schools, including his alma mater. Crow went to Randolph-Macon Academy. Crow did not address a question about how much he paid in total for Martin's tuition. Asked if Thomas had requested the support for either school, Crow's office responded, open quotes, "No," close quotes. In a recent interview with the Dallas Morning News, Crow recounted how he first met Thomas. In 1996, the justice was selected to give a speech in Dallas for an anti-regulation think tank. Crow offered to fly him there on his private jet. "During that flight, we found out we were kind of simpatico, the billionaire said. The following year, the Thomases began to discuss taking custody of Martin. His father, Thomas's nephew, had been imprisoned in connection with a drug case. Thomas has written that Martin's situation held deep resonance for him because his own father was absent and his grandparents had taken him in under very similar circumstances. Thomas had an adult son from a previous marriage, but he and the wife, Ginny, didn't have children of their own. They pitched Martin's parents on taking the boy in. Thomas explained that the boy would have the best of everything: his own room, a private school education, lots of extracurricular activities. Journalists Kevin Merida and Michael Fletcher reported in their biography of Thomas. Thomas gained legal custody of Martin and became his legal guardian around January 1998, according to the court records. Martin, who had been living in Georgia with his mother and siblings, moved to Virginia, where he lived with the justice from the ages of 6 to 19, he said. Thomas reconfigured his life to balance the demands of raising a child with serving on the High Court. He began going to the Supreme Court before 6 a.m. so he could leave in time to pick Martin up after class and help him with his homework. By 2001, the justice had moved Martin to private school out of frustration with the Fairfax County public school system lax schedule, the American Lawyer magazine reported. For high school, Thomas sent Martin to Randolph-Macon Academy, a military boarding school 75 miles west of Washington, D.C., where he was in the class of 2010. The school, which sits on a 135-acre campus in the Shenandoah Valley, charged between $25,000 to $30,000 a year. Martin played football and basketball, and Justice sometimes visited the games. In 2002, a friend of Thomas's from the RV community who owned a Florida pest control company, Earl Dixon, offered Thomas $5,000 to help defray the cost of Martin's education. Thomas's disclosure of that earlier gift, several experts said, could be viewed as evidence that the justice himself understood he was required to report tuition aid from friends. Open quotes. At first, Thomas was worried about the propriety of the donation, close quotes. Thomas' biographers, Merida and Fletcher, recounted. Open quotes. He agreed to accept it if the contribution was deposited directly into the special trust for Mark, close quotes. In his annual filings, Thomas reported the money as an education gift to Martin. Here is a picture of the Justice Thomas and his good friend, Harlan Crowe. I believe this was a donation. So here's what it says here. Above, donor Harlan Crowe left, and sculpture of Zenos Frodakis middle. Stand with Justice Clarence Thomas at the dedication. At left, CM Sergeant Louis E. Monroe gives the address. So this is the school where Justice Thomas' grandnephew attended. So I'd just like to note that on April 26, 2023, United States Senators Angus King, independent from Maine, and Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, introduced bipartisan legislation that requires the Supreme Court to create its own code of conduct and appoint an official to review potential conflicts and public complaints. That is because, like I explained in my other video where I speak on Justice Clarence Thomas, the code of conduct wasn't created for the U.S. Supreme Court. It was created for federal judges. Look at that video. You're going to get a good understanding as it relates to the code of conduct, as it relates to the conundrum when it comes to that, having regard to a report or a statement made by Chief Justice Roberts. So that is it. That's it for this video. Thank you all for engaging. Thank you all for watching. Thank you. I hope you learned. Whatever you see here, the ProPublica report, you can go online and find the ProPublica report, read it in its entirety. They have several reports dealing with all these matters. Or if you want, you get it from here. You could also look at my previous video as it relates to Justice Clarence Thomas to give you an understanding of what this whole discussion is about, so that you could form your own opinion and come to a decision as to whether or not you think Justice Thomas, what he should do. Okay, thank you all for joining me, and that is it for today. Get Legit LLC, please do subscribe to my channel, like the content, and comment so we could engage in a lively discussion.